The COVID pandemic has highlighted a number of gaps in the labor legislation. Key amendments are necessary to the labor law regime to adapt the current challenges facing workers. These include amendments to Section 189 of the Labor Relations Act, the introduction of a 40-hour work week, the proposals to increase the Basic Conditions of Employment Act threshold, as well as to increase the level of severance pay. Further engagements must be held on these critical matters with urgency and table these demands on legislative amendments to the LRA, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the National Minimum Wage, the Unemployment Insurance, the Occupational Health and Safety and Compensation Fund Act, and regulations. All of these will be tabled in the Labour Market Chamber of NEDLEC for a process to begin the reform of labour laws. On the 40-hour work, we will be tabling the need for the reduction of working hours, and this is in line with the ILO recommendation 116 of 1962, which was adopted to indicate practical measures for the progressive reduction of hours of work, taking into account different economic and social conditions. The key provisions there are that countries should formulate and pursue a national policy to promote appropriate national conditions and practice in each industry for the adoption of the principle for a standard 40-hour week. The principle of a progressive reduction of nominal hours to work may be given effect through laws, regulations, collective agreements at the level of the sector, as well as arbitration awards. Key to this principle is that the social standard of a 40-hour work week should occur without the reduction in the wages of workers. On the basic conditions of employment threshold, COSATU is seeking for Section 6 of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act to increase the threshold for the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. The earnings threshold impacts on the application of provisions of the BCEA, the Labor Relations Act, as well as the Employment Equity Act. What we're saying here is that the minister must bring into effect the increased earning threshold by the 1st of March, which has already happened 2021, and this must run concurrently with the increases in the national minimum wage. On severance pay, we are calling for an increase for severance pay. The minimum severance pay is in section 41.2 of the BCEA, and it's currently at 1 week of remuneration for each year of completed service. What we cite there as a problem is that this threshold and this minimum has not been increased since the introduction of the Labor Relations Act in 1996. And we have fallen behind economies that are the size of South Africa. So the failure to set an adequate level of severance pay in statute undermines job security for workers and primarily makes retrenchments easier for the side of the employer. So what we're calling for there is the increase in severance pay. On Section 189 and Section 197 of the Labor Relations Act, Section 189, which we know permits employers to dismiss employees for operational requirements. These are defined as requirements based on economic, technological, structural, or similar needs of the employer. Given the fact that we are sitting at a record high unemployment rate, limited definition is at 32.5%. The expanded definition, when you take into consideration discouraged work seekers, sits at about 42.6%. We have cited that clearly retrenchments, and especially retrenchments for operational requirements, are clearly way too easy for employers to institute and are usually the first option for employers instead of being the last options. Currently, together with severance pay being as low as what it is, it means that Section 189 remains very cheap and very easy for employers. We are looking to amend this in order to avert large-scale retrenchments in light of the contractions in the economy. On the COIDA, what we are calling for in the Labour Market Chamber of NEDLEC is an update to COIDA. So firstly, we'd like to update the illness definitions, upgrade rehabilitation for workers to a legal right, as well as provide for some of the COVID regulations currently in the COIDA directive to form a part of either a COIDA regulation or to become a part of the Act itself. And we are also looking to update the Occupational Health and Safety Act to talk to the various regulations for COVID-19, as well as to insert provisions related to the pandemic, as well as the rollout of the vaccines.